right. Well,
Today we're talking about, what's it, our 5th episode?
yes, episode 5.
Episode 5.
And I don't have the research for this episode. You have the research
I
for this
did.
episode.
I was using it to procrastinate on doing something else. So I researched Hershey Park, which
when you told me this, that kind of surprised me because I have never heard anything spooky or any haunted about Hershey Park.
there was quite a lot actually that I had found. I did the haunted research first and then went back and did the research like on Hershey Park itself because I was also, I guess, a little surprised because it's supposed to be like the sweetest place on earth, right?
Oh yeah, I love Chocolate World. I've been through Chocolate World so many times.
We just learned downstairs that I didn't know it was like a real amusement park until like I started doing this. I don't know what I thought it was. I think like I just like had Willy Wonka's factory just in my head, you know what I mean? Like don't go there because they torture children or something.
Yeah, and I told you I lost my phone on a roller coaster at Hershey Park, and the night before I had seen One Direction.
Oh no, so all your photos and videos and stuff.
I lost all of my photos and videos from the concert, and I was so sad. I'm still not over it 11 years later.
That's what the cloud is for.
Not then.
Yeah, 11 years ago. I actually still carry around an iPhone 5 because my friend and I did like a cross-country camping trip where we started in Oregon and made our way to Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
And all of my pictures from that trip are on this iPhone 5, and I cannot get into it for any reason. Like the screen is cracked, and I just want to like get these pictures off of there because we have like really beautiful. We stopped at so many really fun places, and like some of it is uploaded to Snapfish, which ages me like a lot. I think Snapfish is very dead. And some of it, I think some of it's on Photobucket too, or was on Photobucket. So, not that you know what those are.
Back in my day.
We gave all our photos to the fish.
That's funny.
I do know that some of the pictures from Montana are in Snapfish, and there was like this really beautiful place that we stayed where like the shoreline looked like the top of a heart.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
So I do know that picture still exists, but I would like the rest of my photos back, but it's just sitting in a box, like hopefully someday.
Yeah. But whenever anyone brings up Hershey Park,
you're still mad about
that's the first thing I say. I lost my phone.
And all my One Direction.
And all my One Direction videos and photos.
They weren't able to like retrieve it for you or anything?
They found the phone.
Oh.
And then they gave it back to me. But it was so shattered that we couldn't do anything with it. We couldn't get anything off of it. And I was devastated.
Was it an iPhone?
No.
Oh, I was going to say, so I know that the iPhones, if you...
No, get this. It was a Nokia.
Oh, what? Come on.
This was 11 years ago.
Break one of those? Those are like...
Because it was like their first like smartphone.
Yeah. Oh.
The screen just shattered.
Sometimes I do forget that you're like 10 years younger than me or whatever, because like I forgot that they made smartphones. Because like when I was a young warthog, like they had these bricks that I bet you like if you were
I remember those.
Yeah, if you were to like open a drawer, like somebody's Nokia is still in there, like, and it's on, and you can make phone
calls. Oh yeah, you could run over that thing with a car and still be on the phone with someone.
Oh my goodness, this is so unrelated to what we're talking about today. But speaking of phones, right here, I told you that house that all that weird stuff happened in. One time, I had a BlackBerry, right? My friend and I were getting stuff. I
loved BlackBerries.
Yes. Oh my gosh, with the little roller ball. Like, it made me feel so cool. So I had a BlackBerry phone. My friend and I were moving stuff like out of the truck and up into the apartment. We're on the second floor in this apartment. And my phone is sitting on top of this pile of stuff. And I watch it slide, and it just disappeared. It disappeared. I never saw that phone again. So we looked and looked and looked. and could not find it. Like, it could not have gone far. We were in the middle of the lawn, like, and so you know how this road is set up here or whatever, like, so it's just like this tiny lawn, and then there's like a sidewalk and then the road. So, like, first of all, where on earth would it go? So we tried calling it, because that was back when I still left my volume on.
Yeah.
So you know it was a long time ago, because millennials haven't turned their volume on in like at least a decade.
If my phone makes a sound, I want to throw it against a wall.
Yes, absolutely. I will throw it out the window.
No, I don't want. Don't you dare
no,
ring.
No, thank you. So
as I check to make sure it's silent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wonder, because I did turn mine on earlier. I called it, like used his phone to call it, and couldn't hear it, nothing. And so we kept calling it, like, whatever. Finally, somebody picked the phone up. Mind you, nobody was around when I dropped the phone. And we hadn't seen anybody like walk by or anything, because we're out looking for the phone. Somebody picked the phone up, and you could hear like breathy and like a little giggle. And then the phone went dead. And then when I called it again, it was just off. And I never saw that BlackBerry again.
What?
Never found it. It was so weird.
That is very, very, very strange.
Like, I have no explanation for that. And so I bought, you know how like when you lose something and if you just buy a new one or whatever, like it'll show up usually.
Yeah.
I bought another BlackBerry, and I never did find that one. But later on, my grandmother comes up with a second strawberry chocolate, which was my first phone.
Mm-hmm.
Like those like little like slide ones. She came up with a second strawberry chocolate, which was a limited edition. Like they didn't sell those for very long. And I had a strawberry chocolate before I had my BlackBerry.
Mm-hmm.
And so somehow the BlackBerry disappeared, but an extra strawberry chocolate showed up at the house.
That makes no sense.
That phone was dope, by the way. Anyway, this is about Hershey Park. And not about mysterious black phones or black phones.
Black phones?
Oh my, that was a terrible movie. Did you see that?
No.
First of all, my feelings about Stephen King are like extraordinarily bad. So I'm not sure why I thought that his son would do anything impressive. But like Ethan Hawke came back to do this movie that Joe Hill wrote. Joe Hill is Stephen King's son. And there was so much hype surrounding it, and I was excited because like Ethan Hawke, and it was awful. It was really bad. All right, so we're talking about Hershey Park today. So I did do the research on this one, so bear with us, because Sierra's a lot better at this. So Milton S. Hershey built the original Hershey Park in 1906 to give the employees of his factory a pleasant place to hang out during their break, or hang out with their families. It was formally opened to the public on Memorial Day, May 30th, 1906. They had places to like boat and picnic, and they had planted like some trees, and there just was trees on the lot and stuff that people can just go, and there was room for like thousands of people at that point. He had a pretty big lot across the street from his factory, so just supposed to be a pleasant place to hang out. A couple years later, a bandstand and a pavilion were opened that served as like a place for local theater productions to put on shows.
Oh, that's cool.
So that happened, I think, in like 1908. So pretty quickly after, they were just like, oh, this is going to be like a little park. And then it just was a nice thing for everybody. And they're like, oh, we want to hang out here more. Let's add more to this. So as the popularity of the park grew, 2 bowling alleys and a tennis court were added, as well as a scenic railroad. And then it was finally with the addition of the carousel in 1912 that Hershey Park started to be shaped as more of like an amusement park than like a leisure park.
Oh.
Which the carousel will come up again later. So keep that in mind.
Ooh.
Yeah, spooky carousel. Loads of construction started happening between 1913 and 1923. So the original park opened in 1906. So by 1913, they were building like a convention hall, which still stands today. That's where the Hershey Museum is now.
Okay.
And then they had like a zoo on campus, which originally housed animals like prairie dogs and just kind of like odd things that you wouldn't have the opportunity to see, but that like might be native.
Yeah.
You know? But then eventually it did house like more exotic animals, like more fun stuff. So, not that prairie dogs aren't fun. They're pretty cute.
Yeah.
And then in 1971, the zoo was closed down to make room for what we know as Hershey Park today.
Okay.
So they shut the zoo down, moved all the animals out, started really building the amusement park in 1971. And now it's called the Sweetest Place on Earth. And Hershey Park is now the largest amusement park in Pennsylvania and has roller coasters and museums and facilities to tour and all sorts of rides and stuff. You said you had been there.
Yeah. With cheerleading, we had gone to States a couple times.
Yes.
And that's at Hershey at the Giants Center.
Yeah.
And when we went down there, we would go tour Chocolate World. Yeah. And that is Chocolate World. I don't know if it still is now, but at the time it was free. You just hopped on a little ride and you went through and they took you through the history and there was singing cows. And yeah, it was great.
I was actually trying to think of the context for why I would have been in Hershey, but that is it.
Mhm.
From being in cheerleading. That's why I would have been down there. Because I remember going on that portion of it. I think that's why I didn't realize that they had rides and stuff.
Yeah, because it was free. So you just went to Chocolate World.
Like we were just like already there. And I think my brother had to stay in a hospital that was like close by there for like his heart stuff.
Yeah, that's like Hershey Medical Center or something like that.
Yeah. Which is crazy that you had saw online that like Milton Hershey like built this whole town basically. Like it started with this factory.
Yeah, it's called a company town.
Yeah.
Like he just had so many employees and he built like this whole town for them to stay so they were close to their work and it just grew.
We've talked about this on Barkley too or whatever, like in practice those things sound really cute, but then if you think about that in practice today and like Amazon makes an Amazon town or something, that sounds horrific. So like what's the difference? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't like the idea of like there being an Amazon town, but like Hershey is fine. I'm fine with that. Like, so obviously the reason that we're talking about Hershey Park is because there are supposedly hauntings at Hershey Park.
This I've never heard.
I was also shocked. I think I wasn't really expecting it, but I did find in my research that pretty much every amusement park in Pennsylvania has like some kind of spooky story about it, or like some kind of haunting, which we talked about when like going up to the cemetery or whatever. I'm like, this isn't where I would hang out if I was dead. If I had the option, I'm going to the roller coasters. Like, you know what I mean?
I'm hopping on one of those.
Absolutely. We talked about like the ghostie that got in your car at like Gettysburg and just went on vacation. That's what I'm doing. Like, I'm just going to stand around and listen to where people are going. And I'm like, oh, you're going to Hershey Park? Cool. Yeah, I want to go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Like, I just go on like mini vacations. Yeah. Do you think that you can just like travel as a spirit or you're just like stuck where you were until somebody like takes you with them?
No, see, you hear so many different things that you're stuck at the place that you passed away or you go back to like your favorite place or you can just move along because there's portals and like I don't know what to believe. I don't know if it's like all of those are true and it's just where you end up because there are some residual hauntings where the person just does stuff over and over and over again at the same time. So like I don't know.
It might be the difference of like the energy left behind and why it's being left behind maybe.
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
If somebody is doing the same thing all the time, then their energy might stay for the residual haunting like because that's what they spent like most of their energy doing. Mm-hmm. Or like if they have like a mission like the guy that we talked about that had the fake debt that he
yes.
Like maybe if they have like some kind of mission or something, like maybe it just depends on how you lived your life or
maybe. I don't know. Yeah, because that's always so hard. And then that's when skeptics come in and they're like, well, you're saying all these different things, that they do all these things. What is real? We don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I don't know.
maybe all of it is.
Or maybe none of it is. But probably all of it is. That makes
Most
more
likely.
sense. It might also have to do with the energy of the people that are interacting with
True.
that as well. Because you know, when we were using the equipment up at Barkley or whatever, like having different equipment seemed to like garner different results. And maybe like having like a person who's like more like of not an empath, but like, you know, like open or whatever might help the energy come through differently than somebody else. I don't know. I think there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah. I think so too. It's just, is it a roll of the dice? Is it how you acted in life that affects it? Is it your energy? There's a lot of things that could go into it of what if you turn into residual haunting, if you can move around, if you're stuck or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be I would be interested to I don't know, figure that out someday.
I know.
I hope like there's like more research that's available or whatever that I don't know. I don't even know how you go about. I guess doing what we're doing, you know, just going around figuring it out. Okay, so one of obviously the most famous hauntings there is Milton Hershey himself. People occasionally say that they see what looks like Milton Hershey hanging around, but they actually more often than not report smelling Milton Hershey because he smelled like a sweet cigar. And so they report smelling him more than anything. He'll just be like walking around the grounds or whatever, and you can smell his cigar.
That's really interesting.
I had a laugh when I when I saw that, because imagine that in my brain I'm like imagining like a couple, you know, and like the wife the whole time is just like these stinky cigars, you know what I mean? And then like after
and you think
he
it's like someone around you, but like that doesn't make sense.
Like she's like, you have to quit these things, and now like that's how she like. I mean, not now because I don't even know if he was married, but I did not. Milton Hershey.
He was.
He was.
I did a quick little Google search before this, and he was married.
Cool. Was she cool? Was she also a chocolatier?
I don't know.
Oh. She like had nothing to do with it.
She's just there.
She's like, you and your chocolate hobby. Like whatever. But yes, so he doesn't seem to, you know, do anything spooky. He just smokes his cigars and hangs out and
make sure his park is running.
Yeah, I mean, putting as much effort into this place because he built this factory from the ground up. And
and when I was doing the research, I thought this was really interesting. So he pioneered the manufacturing of caramel using fresh milk, and that made him start the Lancaster Caramel Company. And he ended up switching up what he was doing, and he sold the caramel company for $1 million in the late 1800s. Today.
Oh my goodness.
And so I did a quick Google search to see how much $1 million would be today, and that is about $37.5 million.
That's insane. Also, I think I expected the number to be higher than that, and I'm really grossed out thinking about like the inflation and how big inflation is or whatever. Obviously, 1 million to 37 million is a big jump, but there's still this much left to go to get to $1 billion. $1 million in the 1800s would be like that's crazy.
It's crazy. Like even to think like $100 at that time is life-changing money.
Oh my goodness.
And
I could spend $100 on the way home.
I know. I breathe and spend $100.
I was gonna say, like, it cost me $20 to walk out my front door. Like somebody's just out there like, money please.
Yeah. I mean, his education stopped at 4th grade.
What?
Yeah, he had a very limited education. He was an apprentice in the local print shop, and he lost his job, and he started taking candy trade as like a job at about 14 years old to help his family.
Wow. So this is Roald Dahl really be taken a lot, I think, from Pennsylvania, because he came up in the last episode too. But like, that sounds very like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory coded. You know what I mean? Where like they're
Yeah.
just like, what was the other thing that we were talking about that I was like, that's very Roald Dahl? Oh, the orphanage in Gettysburg. That I was like, that feels like
Well,
Trunchbull
actually, speaking of an orphanage,
oh my goodness,
um,
chocolate orphanage.
he was really into philanthropy work. That's a hard word to say. So him and his wife established the Hershey Industrial School, and this was mainly for like local orphans.
Oh, you lost your parents. Come to work. I feel like that's sweet. That's a sweet sentiment, right? Was it a nice place? It's not like the last orphanage we talked about.
Right. Yeah, it was a nice place.
Yeah.
And in 1918, Hershey transferred the majority of his assets, including control of the company, to the Milton Hershey School Trust Fund.
Oh, see.
So they really just wanted to help out these kids that were in the area.
I mean, he understood what it was like to struggle, you know,
Exactly.
from like a young age.
And he didn't have that much of an education. He wants these kids to have an education, and
oh my goodness,
and
so
I mean,
sweet.
Milton Hershey School is still going. It's still a school.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get down to Hershey very often, but it does seem like a cute little town. It's pretty impressive. I feel like that this started as like a chocolate factory, and like
his boarding school was originally for local orphans, but accommodating around 2,000 students as of 2016.
okay. Yeah.
And they also developed a non-melting chocolate bar so they could send to troops during World War II.
I did know about that. I don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't want to know how that doesn't melt.
I feel like dark chocolate doesn't melt that easily though. Like, so maybe it just had like a more dark chocolate base. Because I will tell you, as sweet as this all is, like Hershey's chocolate is barely chocolate. So probably all they did was like take the cacao beans and like just make like a bar, and it's probably not very good. I mean, I like dark chocolate. But
I love dark chocolate.
I like, you know what I like? Those like spicy ones. Like I like chili chocolate and stuff like that.
I was just reading this.
Yeah.
He also built Hershey Cemetery.
That's where the orphans' parents are.
Spooky. Back into our spooky stuff. Yeah, he built Hershey Cemetery, which is where he is buried.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He also founded Penn State Milton Hershey Medical Center.
Okay.
He owned this town.
He had a very long, productive life.
Yeah. Also, fun little fact, him and his wife were supposed to be on a little ship called the Titanic.
Oh my goodness.
But at the last minute, they canceled their reservation, and look at that.
I have a lot of conspiracy theories about the Titanic.
Oh, yeah.
So it does not surprise me to find that.
Their cancellation is often attributed to Kitty Hershey, which must be his wife. Kitty?
That's so cute. Milton and Kitty.
Falling ill.
Quote unquote, or somebody warned them.
Okay, so that is some interesting stuff about him. I mean, just Google him. What an amazing life to have.
Yeah, I had to do like 2 things today and I cried about it. So I can't imagine being that productive over a lifetime.
Yeah. So what else goes on at this park?
So supposedly the carousel is also haunted. So the original one, like I said, was built in 1912. But then they removed that one for a bigger one, and the bigger one was like a patriotic one that had originally come in from Baltimore. It started in Baltimore, it was carved in Baltimore. It was there, I think, for like 10 years. Then it moved to New York and was at the Energetta Park. And then it moved to Hershey Park in 1944. So it kind of got to live like several different lives before it landed there. But it's got like it's got like carved eagles, and it's very like red, white, and blue.
Mm-hmm.
And it was supposed to be like a tribute to the end of World War One. So apparently, and this is not the only haunted carousel that I found, but I have a theory about that. But apparently the like lights will like turn on and off sometimes. It can be seen where the ride seems to start up by itself. And sometimes like when the park is closed, the security guards will report like hearing the music from the carousel just drifting through the park. Um, Occasionally people will say that they do see like a shadowy figure at the operator station for the park. But for the most part it seems to just be running itself. Um,
Hmm.
but my theory about that is the amount of energy that had to go into these carousels back then, because most of these were hand carved.
Oh yeah.
People would spend, so many hours in their wood shops just like creating these pieces of art.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you think uh, of a carousel, you think of kids having fun, and parents are on them with their kids, and so like it's just
Yeah.
a fun time surrounded by such good energy.
Yeah. So I think a lot of energy goes into something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that would make sense to me. I mean, that
Yeah.
it doesn't seem to be haunted in like a way that's like detrimental to anybody. It just sometimes it's like, hey, we want to keep having fun.
Yeah.
Like,
Why'd you shut this right off?
yeah,
Like, let's go.
let's go. Have you ever been on a carousel in the dark? Like, get on. Like, we're gonna turn this on. Um, so that was one of the like, I don't know. It's like most of the hauntings around Hershey Park are like, it's kind of sweet.
Well, it is the sweetest
It is the
place
sweetest
on
place on
earth.
earth. Um, so one that maybe was not so sweet, and I want to preface this by saying that this story gets passed around a lot, and I'm not able to confirm any of the facts that are in the story, and I really did try. But there was a pool at one point that was built um in this park before it was like really like an amusement park. There was a pool area and like a lighthouse and stuff, and it supposedly the pool got shut down because there was a lot of drownings that were happening, and then people were still reporting seeing like kids in these like old-fashioned bathing suits and stuff hanging around the area, up until they removed the lighthouse portion of this. However, I was not able to confirm. There was one confirmed death that I could find in Hershey Park, and he didn't die in the park. He died as a result of injuries that he sustained at the park.
Okay.
So I can't confirm or deny these drownings. But I was in Disney World, and I know that a child died on a ride while I was
Oh,
there.
multiple people have died at Disney World, but officially, if you look into it, no one has.
Well, I was able to find this kid finally because I remembered like the like roundabout date, but it did take me like 3 or 4 Google searches and like trying to tweak my
Mm-hmm.
my responses and stuff to find him, and I did find him eventually. But that stuff does get buried. So I don't know whether these drownings actually happened or not. It does seem like a weird thing that a bunch of kids were drowning at a pool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, but supposedly that's why that got shut down. And they took the lighthouse out, and people stopped seeing these children. But
Also, another thing is, why are lighthouses such paranormal things as well?
I don't. Maybe for the same reason that they exist in the first place, to like be a beacon.
Maybe.
So like, and people generally in lighthouses, like you're spending a lot of time by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not really good for anybody. So
No.
so like maybe that has something to do with it, but I think it's more just like a beacon.
Mm-hmm.
But lighthouses do always be spooky.
Yeah,
Like,
you always hear about like a lighthouse has like all these hauntings, like St. Augustine Lighthouse,
mhm.
and like, and whenever if you look up a lighthouse, it's like, oh yeah, here's some ghost stories that go along with it.
Yeah. I mean, also I think if you're out in a lighthouse by yourself, um your your mind kind of plays tricks on you when you're by yourself for
That's true.
too long. Um or like maybe you just become more susceptible to hearing or seeing things because you don't have interaction with like living human beings.
Yeah.
So that's also possible. I don't know why that would make it so that people visiting the lighthouse now would still see stuff, but
Yeah. And I mean, like, to have it there and then you see all these like kids and you take it away and they're gone.
yeah,
It's like they were attached to that.
to the lighthouse instead of the pool.
Right.
But then why were they in the bathing suits? I have a lot of questions about
Yeah.
this. So this any time that I was looking up anything haunted about Hershey Park, the kids and the drownings around the pool is like the number one thing that people are talking about. But I would go down these rabbit holes of like clicking on, okay, well, this person got the research from here, this person got the research from here, and I was unable to find like a source of information for why these drownings supposedly happened.
It's more like a legend or something.
Yes. Yeah. So, but that's like one of the most popular stories is about these children. So we talked about the park officially becoming like an amusement park in about 1971. Apparently there was longtime property owners that were approached to sell their property to Milton Hershey to make room to expand this park.
Okay.
And as it always does, somebody wants to hold out.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you've lived someplace for a long time and then somebody comes and approaches you and they're like, "Hey, can I buy your, lifelong house so that I can turn it into a money-making scheme?"
Yeah.
Like, that's always upsetting. So apparently there was like a elderly lady that was approached and she did not want to sell her house. But she was kind of being forced out by all of her neighbors and kind of, stuck in this situation that she didn't want to be in. So allegedly, she killed herself in her house because she didn't want to leave. And patrons of Hershey Park and employees have reported the area where that is now. You can hear like wailing and crying sometimes from the second story of the building that was supposedly standing where her house was. So you can hear her still.
Ooh, I don't like that.
No, that makes me sad.
Yeah, that makes me really sad.
Like the idea of, like I said, like having to like leave your like lifelong house or whatever, and like that being the option instead.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like she lived there alone too. So,
No.
but yeah, so employees like report hearing like wailing, crying. Sometimes like people will say that they see like just like a woman around, but it's once again mostly instead of apparitions, it seems to be like a sound based thing. So, but that one was pretty sad.
Yeah, that's sad.
The last one that I had looked into was the Super Duper Looper coaster, which one is a fun name, but two, super haunted. Apparently, super duper looper haunted.
Is it haunted by the ghost of my phone?
It's just haunted by.
I'm so not over it. It was 11 years ago, and I'm not over it.
It's haunted by the.
I don't even think that was the roller coaster I was on.
Haunted by the ghost of like the videos trying to make their way back to you. They're
yeah,
like, it's just...
I wish they would.
Oh my goodness gracious. No. So we talked about earlier, that there was one confirmed death that happened in Hershey Park.
Mm-hmm.
So the Super Duper Looper coaster was opened in June of, oh my gosh. Sorry, it was opened July 4th in 1977. And then by August, they had to shut it down because its very first like ride up, it experienced like mechanical failures. The CEO was on the ride and like a bunch of VIPs, and so it like stopped and they all had to like walk down those like super scary stairs that every time you're on a roller coaster you're like, I hope I don't have to deal with those.
Oh my god.
So that was like immediately after it opened, and they just had like trouble after trouble with this roller coaster from the beginning. Well, then in 1977, a 16-year-old boy. He was a maintenance worker. He got hit by one of the coaster's cars. He was taken to the hospital, but he did pass away
Oh
from
my
his
God.
injuries. And people report seeing like him still like hanging out around the coaster, which, as we talked about, like if I'm gonna die, I want to
Yeah.
go somewhere cool. And
Wait, this roller coaster's still running?
I do not know the answer to that question. Let's find out really
Maybe
quick.
it shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to like have been like cursed from the beginning. Oh my goodness gracious, it absolutely is.
What?
The Super Duper Looper is still running today. So
Maybe don't.
maybe don't. So that was built in the 1970s, had problems from the get-go, and then somebody was hit and killed, and then it's still running.
So if
50
we
years
go to
later.
Hershey Park, avoid that roller coaster.
Yeah, maybe don't get on the Super Duper Looper coaster.
No.
As fun as it is to say.
Yeah.
But people do report like just seeing him kind of around like the controls too, or like just walking like the tracks or whatever where like an employee would be, which I think that at 16 years old, working in an amusement park sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
So if something was gonna happen to you, like, yeah, I'd go back there and just spend my summers there. You know what I mean? Like that sounds. It's obviously very tragic.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to make light of this poor kid, but like, I mean, if you're gonna die that young, go do something fun with it. You know what I mean?
I would go back. Like,
Yeah. Be like, that's where I want to spend my summers eternally.
Yeah.
It's very Casper the Friendly Ghost, which is.
Yeah, I don't think that should be open still.
Oh, no, especially, like I said, like, it seemed like it was, like, cursed from the beginning. Like, they just had nothing but problems with it. I mean, also, it has been open for 50 years, so if you haven't figured it out in 50 years.
Maybe you just stop.
Although I haven't figured anything out. I'm not 50 years old, so I guess, like.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard Hershey Park being, like, having haunted activity, but I guess it would make sense. I mean, Disney, they always report Walt Disney is still there.
Yeah. Well, once again, like, I guess if you're gonna like dedicate your entire life to like building this thing, at least it's not like Benjamin Franklin just skipping down.
Yeah, skipping. I'm gonna have to find that one in that big book of Pennsylvania ghost stories, because that was so funny. I was reading it and I was like, that's so funny. Could you imagine? You're just in Philly and there goes actual Benjamin Franklin skipping down the street.
I have not stopped thinking about the visuals of that, like, since we talked about it last. Like, I am obsessed with the frilly socks and the wind, and just like,
yeah. Can you imagine?
Benjamin Franklin was just such a rotten pervert, and like that sounds like a grown man who would skip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Anyway, so that's the haunted history of Hershey Park.
Yeah, I mean, we had a couple nice ones and a couple not so nice ones, but
yes,
I like the idea of Milton Hershey just kind of walking around making sure everything is under control, and I can imagine he's doing that with all the other things he started, like with the school and everything like that.
It would be interesting to look into,
because it seems like he just made this whole town.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, putting all the energy of your life into building all of these different things, I bet you, yeah, he probably, if we looked into the other places, he probably is like checking in and out of a lot of them, or hanging around, just making sure everything's still running, which it is. It's a pretty lucrative little town.
And you can go see a concert and then lose all your pictures from it. So
I was supposed to go to
I will never get over losing my phone. I'm so sad about it.
I was supposed to go to a Foo Fighters concert there, like, over the summertime. But, like, the people that asked me to go, they, like, we had just moved into this, like, new place. And they were like, hey, you want to go see a Foo Fighters show? I was like, how much is it? It was like $400. I was like, $400.
All right, well, thank you guys for listening to this episode. Last week, we didn't have an episode because we were celebrating my birthday. Happy birthday to me.
Yes, happy birthday, Sierra.
Thanks. I'm officially in my late 20s, and that feels weird.
I was just having this discussion where certain ages just feel older even though they're out of order, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like being 27 feels young, being 28 feels old, being 30 feels young again.
Oh.
Being 34 feels old. Being 36 seems like it will be young. I'm not really sure, but I was really excited about my 30th birthday because I was like, oh, like my life is starting finally.
Oh.
But like in your late 20s, you're like, no, God, no, I don't want to be 30.
Okay. But thank you for listening to us and letting us take a week off for my birthday. Yeah, that was Hershey Park and Milton Hershey, and I'm very excited you brought that to me because I had no clue about this. So thank you for that.
I do have like a notebook full of subjects while I'm waiting to chase people down on certain things. So
all right. Well, thank you for listening, and like you can catch us on Spotify and YouTube. Research notes will be in the description, and don't forget to send in your stories to us, and
especially about Hershey Park if you have
if you have one. Have you
you
smelt
see?
Milton Hershey?
That's a t-shirt.
I would like to know. But anyway, as Michelle dies of laughter, and then I have to talk to her through my spirit box. Thank you. The email to send us a story is at the end of the video or in the description box as well. And so until next time.
I would absolutely still do this podcast with you if I were dead.
Yeah, it'd just be
I
through
would
a spirit
show up.
box.
This is my favorite thing to do.
It'd just be through a spirit box. Well, thanks.
Okay, bye.